Bills saw some major developments this week, including a decision by a judge that the cheerleaders should be considered employees, not independent contractors. But whether the Bills are responsible remains in question. News 4's Dave Graber joins us live with the latest. Dave.
Well, Alina, the lawsuit surpassed its third year just last month. Since April 2014, the public has heard very little from the Bills about either the lawsuit or how they felt about their cheerleaders, which for decades were synonymous with their sidelines. But court records made public this week show exactly how the Bills brass felt about their cheerleading squad. They were part of the game day festivities and little else. The Buffalo Gills haven't cheered since the 2013-2014 football season after their former director, Stephanie Madison, suspended operations 2 days after members of her squad filed a civil lawsuit. But that didn't seem to matter to Bills president and CEO Russ Brandon, according to transcripts of his deposition in the lawsuit that were released on Wednesday. 5 members of the Gills filed a lawsuit in April 2014, alleging violations of workers' rights by Madison, the Bills, their former manager, Citadel Communications, and eventually the NFL. The Bills gave up control of their cheerleading squad in 1986, leasing out their operations to a third party in Citadel. Russ Brandon was one of multiple people deposed last November as part of the lawsuit. He told an attorney for Citadel when asked about the Gills, quote, "They were inconsequential from a business standpoint to me." He said the Gills were, quote, "a part of the game day experience, simply put, nothing more, nothing less." Brandon was then questioned about whether the Gills or their operations were listed as line items in the team's budget. He told the same attorney, quote, "If I've spent one collective hour in 20 years thinking about the Buffalo Gills, that would be about 58 minutes more than I have." When questioned about an ongoing dispute between the former Gills and their alumni association, Brandon said, quote, "My give-a-blank meter would have been 0. Near the end of questioning, Brandon responds to an attorney for the cheerleaders, quote, "I couldn't have cared less if the Gills existed." But a few minutes later, a caveat, quote, "It sounds disrespectful, and I don't want it to be disrespectful." Brandon said as president and CEO, the Gills just weren't part of his day-to-day focus. Now, representatives of the Bills weren't available for comment today regarding Russ Brandon's testimony, and attorneys for the cheerleaders in this case didn't return a call seeking comment. Meanwhile, the biggest question in this case, whether the Bills acted as an employer of the Gills during the time in question, that remained unanswered in a decision that was just issued yesterday by the court. Reporting live in the studio, Dave Graber, News 4 at 5:30.